Alright, welcome back. Today I'm doing something a little bit different. I'm doing a game that I found on the website gokibits.com, which is a pretty cool game reviewing tool where you can upload an SGF and leave comments on the moves, and it's a pretty slick interface. I think it works pretty well. It's in alpha, so if you check it out, keep that in mind. But we've been using it to do game reviews, pro game reviews, weekly via the Badook room on Reddit, and that's been working out pretty well. And yeah, when we're doing this weekly pro game discussion thing there, so if you want to check that out, head on over to Reddit, go to Badook. You can read the comments without logging in and all that good stuff, and you can log on to Gokubits if you want to join the conversation there. So with that said, this guy or girl, Logic, gave me permission to use this game, but I mean, it was up on a public site anyway, but kindly gave me permission to use this game, and I don't even know what server this was on, but we have a couple of 6Q players, and they played pretty well, and there's some really cool stuff in this game, and some neat Tesujis, and and they did play pretty well, but the white makes a blunder right off the bat, which is approaching too close and doing this sort of armpit hit against the black's cornerstone. The proper move is to approach here or, high. Probably high is orthodox in this position with the black enclosure over here. It's considered pretty passive to make your own enclosure and let black get two corner enclosures. It's like black has like really good potential all over the board. Kind of hard, so white usually will approach here, but this is just rough. Yeah, black takes one option and plays like this. Hane is at the head of two stones, good basic form. There's no real way for white to get a good result here. I might have considered doing something on the outside instead of this, potentially, but this is good too. This denies white any sort of base, totally acceptable. This is a little tricky because it leaves this cut behind, and this is kind of dangerous, leaving this potential cut back here. So since that seems to be working for white, black would have to Atari from this side, and now we get into some crazy fighting variation all over the board. And it might not be best to, I mean, black could probably handle it, so I guess it's okay, but very tricky, lots of complicated reading, but white doesn't go for it, white backs off. I think white might have done better to cut here, especially at this point with this backup. Now, this is looking, ooh, I don't know, come out like this, and can white... or maybe black can cut here. Oh, black can still cut. But, this just creates this really complicated fighting, and it's kind of hard when you just have that sitting behind to really go all out in some other area of the board, because you constantly got to keep all this weakness over on the left side from being activated. Like if white extends here now, it's pretty obvious that this is Sente, black has to defend, because if black ignores this to do something else, now this cut is really severe, because white just does this, and now black kind of has to probably spend a move to live, and then this is just, oh goodness. You should probably give these 3 stones up right now. They're not that big, you've got a big framework, but white got a lot over here. Something to be concerned about. But in the game, white jumps in all the way here, which is a little jealous. This is pretty strong framework here, because this group is not entirely alive. Like, it's probably going to live, but it's not 100% alive yet, so it's going to be hard to really attack these 2 black stones on top. Black does the natural thing in caps, and it's really hard for white to survive here. This is probably good. There is a little bit, it might be possible to hold back a little bit. This might make it easier to kind of keep white enclosed, but this is pretty severe. White extends, black blocks again. Here, yeah, this is not particularly... I think both sides kind of misplay a little bit here. But black does connect underneath and isolate the one white stone, and white just gets a clump. So that's a pretty good result for black. And then, you know, anytime you end up with a clump of stones like this when you were trying to, you know, do something fancy and invade, obviously black is handling this pretty well. I think white is sort of overplayed a little bit. I think this is necessary because, you know, if black does something like this, white coming here, if black connects, this is just a ladder, so white captures the one stone. Even though, you know, black could look to maybe kind of do something grandiose, but, you know, white's maybe probably going to just be able to live and or come out, potentially. One of the two. It's in having two options like that, it's going to be hard to kill it. So this is kind of taking a good amount of territory and keeping all the black stones connected and healthy, so that's good basic form. Never underestimate connecting your stones securely. And then this is good, not trying to defend this one stone, but cutting directly here. And this might be good just because it reduces the liberties on these two stones. And we're really after this big clump. But having like this Atari and Sente for black is pretty nice. Yeah, this is another... black misses a good chance here. Black has the opportunity. This knight's move is actually a more active attack in this shape. And it's kind of this 2-point extension, and the knight's move from here is, I don't know what to call this, like a sailing shape. Like if this was the boat, these two stone, and then our sail is the triangle coming up. And it's particularly in fighting when you're trying to seal your opponent in. You can see that there's... actually, I wonder if this would be working for... Is that an Atari? Oh, that's an Atari. So maybe this wouldn't be working in this particular shape. But in a lot of senses, you know, this is not going to be working, per se. Can white really just come straight out because of that? Come back like that? Oh, no, white wouldn't. White would, I guess it doesn't quite hold white in either. And it's kind of, you know, this is the thing, too. When you're pursuing an enemy like this, you really want to ask yourself, what am I getting out of this? And, you know, this is okay so far as it goes, because we want to develop our center group now. Like, we're kind of, you know, in for a penny, in for a pound. What's important now is that the A group stays strong. The B group is alive right now, so we don't have to worry about it. And if we lose the C stone, if it's just one stone that gets captured, no big deal. It's not like swallowed up on a large scale. It's just our opponent spent 4 moves and captured it. That's fine. Let's develop the A group. You know, this is kind of the moment when you need to be aware that that's the plan. And if that's not the plan, then we've wasted a lot of Aji bringing this stone out. So, you know, this is why it's good to think about your options first. And cuts all over the place. And like I said, once we get to this point, connecting here, at this push, maybe now we just let the damage happen here and say, okay, we're not going to capture these stones. Let's just defend at A and call it good. Or maybe just play tightly here and then threaten to Atari and come out. That would be another possibility. Try and swallow up the stone at D right there. But yeah, but at this point, you know, we have to pick a moment to start actively defending and developing this group. And then, you know, at least it's facing the open area of the board. We got territory and we're getting influence. Not bad, even though we maybe could have captured these stones at some point with a better maneuver. Because this is kind of unfortunate. Yeah, and here too, when white does, you know, even when white does this, I think it's better for black to just maybe sacrifice these 4 stones and come out like this. If white tries to come out as well, I think that the shortage of liberties is going to be worse for white, because white's going to have to come back like this. and I think, again, just turning. And if white does nothing, you can still kind of see, you know, like, or if white tries to come out like this. This is kind of, I don't know. Oh, that's a double Atari. Maybe not the double Hane. But, I wonder if there's any trickiness, though, with this and this. Oh, that could be possible. What about this? Connect there. And I guess, yeah, you're not threatening anything, though. That's unfortunate. It's almost like there might be a snapback in here, but unfortunately black's just captured. But yeah, at some point, developing the center is going to become more important. And unfortunately, black pulls out kind of the weakest stones instead of, you know, there was several opportunities for black to kind of have like this thick, semi-living shape in the center, and now, and you notice how white came directly between the two black groups. That's always a sign that probably something went awry there, but we're going to have to move ahead with the game because, you know, stones are on the board, and, you know, it's, you know, black is not doing too poorly, even though these weak stones, white's going to probably get a lot of territory, you know, especially on this side with these stones all kind of coming out, but black is working. This is unfortunate too. At this point, white has to come out like this. And the logic is that once you do this cut, you kind of have to follow through with it, because coming back here and allowing black to capture it is worse than if we didn't play the cut in the first place. Like, let's just go back. If we're not going to defend this cutting stone, it's much better to just Hane out here. Like, this is way better. You know, now if black does this, now look, like, we can do this, and this is the situation, you know. And we come back, and if we need to defend, I don't think we even need to defend this cut. We can probably, you know, do something super aggressive, like keep attacking. You know, now this black group is in a lot of trouble. Just pretty much no matter how you slice it. White has the extra liberty there, so this type of thing isn't working. You know, and even if black does manage to live somewhere in here, you know, white basically just took this massive fifth line territory in a quarter of the board, more or less, while black is just running away. That's never good. And like, you want to be focused on what, you know, you can get while you're attacking, because you're never guaranteed that you're going to capture your opponent's stones. Like, they might pull some insane Tesuji out of thin air, and you're like, oh, that group isn't dead. Shoot. But if the whole time you've been like, well, I'll attack it so I can build up this wall so I can invade over here, or I'll attack it so I can take this territory over here, then when you don't capture the group, it's all's well and good, you know. And white is unlikely to capture this black group after giving up this Panuki by not defending the cutting stone. Kind of tragic. Yeah, and especially now, black's like really well developed with all this eye shape. Like, just a few moves ago, black was running for life, and now it's like, oh, I've got like 3 eyes all of a sudden. Pretty slick. And this is a little bit overmuch, I think. I'm pretty sure white can just do something like this and kill it. There isn't really much to threaten these white stones up here. Like, black could do this, and then maybe, I guess, come down, but then white can just capture here, and as long as white has this capture and eye over here, there's no real way for black to threaten this. Like, at this point, if black defends over here, white just comes here, you know, and if black comes down, oh, not there, white would play on the eye making point right here, you know, and there's no way for black to really get out of this situation, I don't think. This could get tricky, though. I wonder if black could make anything happen in here. Maybe there's a way. But this descent, nah. I would be surprised. Black is probably gonna die. But white comes the other way, which is interesting. I think white might have been afraid for these stones, but maybe not thinking about the reserve eye in Gote in case things get hairy. And black, you know, does a pretty good job of creating some stones here. I think even at this point, it might be good for black to just skip over and come down like this. And this is pretty good Aji for laying behind in white's position. Like, white might play something really passive like this, you know, and then, you know, even God, you could even look to come here and say, okay, the bottom's mine. I don't know. Lots of fun possibilities. But yeah, this is good. Developing some good Aji. This might be a little heavy, but the way it works out, white gets in kind of this world of trouble here uh, with these 5 stones and not really, you know. And here again, I think white should just do something much simpler, and instead of leaving this cutting point, probably just, yeah, you could just play this tiger's mouth. And now, yeah, if black comes out here, I don't even, black's not even alive. This would be pretty simple. Like, pulling these stones out was a little extreme. It was better to just have the Aji, even here, white plays here, now play here, and it's like, kind of like, well, now white really has to be careful with this stone down here. Black can consider doing things like this, and white has like kind of a tricky decision to make now about what's important and how much Aji is in these 3 stones. I think pulling them out immediately gets a little heavy, and I think white could have killed these pretty easily at one point. But white leaves this cutting point, which black immediately takes advantage of, and this is great. Like, I hope Logic, I hope you were very excited when white left this cutting point, because it's really fighting's the only way this group is going to survive at this point, is you got to kill something. So white was really nice to oblige you the opportunity. And see, like, black is down to only 4 liberties. Pretty dicey indeed. And, well, actually, this is good, because now there's the 1 ko as well. And, white just kind of allows black to come out and sort of directly surround this. And then black does... I think this is a really good decision by black to let white capture these 2 stones in exchange for taking the corner and getting life for, the struggling black group right here. Like, this is good. Like, oh, it brings black's position together. It takes a fair amount of territory. White still only has 1 eye, so black can still look forward to attacking even. Definitely good positional judgment. Switching, not reflexively connecting the 2 stones in Atari. Even though they are cutting stones, it seems like this is the overall the safer way to go. And is this fully necessary? Black might have been able to get away with doing something like this. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. White could start in first. Does black do better by descending? I don't know. Than in any event. That's Atari, so no real dice. So yeah, black, you could have definitely gotten away with letting this go in the corner. I think you have sufficient liberties to do something other than just come back and capture securely. But I did. Yeah, and you had plenty of thinking time too. Look at the time on your clock. Yeah, you could have read this out. Just see what happens. Imagine we come here, and then we play elsewhere. Play something like this, and then white comes out. That should be pretty. What about if white comes all the way here? I don't think that changes anything. I think we can just come direct. Does this worry us? Not really. So, now, again, here we have basically the same shape as we had earlier, with black poking out through this, and white does the knight's move to hold black in. It's a slick technique. It works really well in a lot of positions. Here, I think white plays really passively by coming back to capture the stone securely. Like, this makes this capture really small when we think that we just played moves, 1, 2, and 3 to capture this 1 stone. That's really not that big. Like, that's a lot of moves to capture 1 stone on the 3rd line. What I think would work a lot better for white is to just come out like this, and then, you know, if we play the usual Joseki, well, now this stone is just getting swallowed up. We're not going to have to come back later and play this to capture it. You know, we're just going to, you know, especially with our wall right here, you could even consider just pushing and jumping a few times, because it's looking like, well, we're getting as much or more in the center as black is getting along the third line. Definitely a possibility. Also a possibility to leave this Aji in reserve, because moves like this can be pretty annoying, looking at the weak point at b5. There's also possibilities for moves like this, and then now it's hard to decide. Black would probably do this. Like, you ever consider this variation if you needed to establish a position on the side? Like that, you know, in isolation, maybe it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but, you know, what if we played, you know, something like this? Black defends, we come back with these slick moves, and look, that looks like a pretty good base on the side of the board to me. You know, you're probably getting 2 eyes in there. So, just things to keep up your sleeve. This position down here has a lot of Aji in it, so white can exploit that in various different ways. I showed you basically the main ones right there, those 3 variations. Just highlight them. You've got some pretty neat moves. You know, one is to push at A and jump out, but that's kind of vulgar, to be honest. Much better is, yeah, so you could push and build a wall at A, or more simply just jump out to A directly and leave the Aji behind. You can approach at B to look at the weak point, and you can attach at C, also looking at the weak point at D. So, you know, A, B, and C, all good options, and like I said, you could also push, but it's a little vulgar, and you're giving your opponent solid territory, and you're pushing from behind as well. You don't want to be doing that. That's not the best idea. So white, you know, spends a lot of moves to just come back and capture this one black stone, so I think black has a good opportunity to take the initiative here. And, you know, I think instead of the Hane underneath, because of this position, white can kind of get away with ignoring, like not connecting here, because of the way that these 3 stones are so thick. So, probably better would be to just come out directly and let white be behind. This would be better. If you want to come down, maybe just descending is better, because then if white tanukis, now this connection is pretty secure. This kind of negates the way white was playing to a certain degree. But at this point, this is good, but unfortunately, black really needs to take advantage of the Aji of these stones and play the Satari right now, and just come back and capture the stone. Would be really big. White's way over-concentrated for just capturing 2 stones. Black really elegantly captures this 1 stone and gets this really nice potential on the left side in one fell swoop. You know, just because, like, you know, I think, yeah, because of the Atari here, this isn't even a ladder. It's to come out like this. There's a little bit of trickiness. White could, you know, try and come down like this, but, you know, now these are just captured. These stones are all weak. Everything's connected. White's not gaining anything, trying to resist here. So, that would be a simpler way to go. Unfortunately, black just gives way, and now that opportunity is kind of gone, because this is not quite the same. Like, these stones are going to survive. Like, black can't capture it anymore. And the corner is a lot smaller, unfortunately. So, but black did take the corner. And actually, this is really funny, because white would be super happy to just keep extending here, and, you know, there's not really anywhere for these stones to go. But in a fit of, I don't know if it's hubris or greed, white Hane's here, which is really awkward, and black cuts and immediately gets this Aji back. Like, look, like, now that this cut happened, these white group only has the 2 liberties. This is really bad for white. White has to come all the way back here to put these stones in Atari and make sure they're captured, and now black captures the white stone, getting essentially a really good result all of the sudden. So it was really, it would have been better for black to capture the stone on the third line, as I demonstrated earlier, but this is still good. And this is one of those things, it's like, this is why this Hane just doesn't work, because, black just captured it. And it would be way, way better for white to just not play that stone. Like, if we're in this situation, if white's going to play the Hane and let black come and capture it, way better to just not play the Hane at all and do something else. Just, black will not be as thick otherwise. Like, if we just do this, now if black comes here, and there's not a white stone there, we could potentially, we can just do something like this and let him get out, but it's not, we're not letting him just capture a stone all of a sudden. And we leave potentials like, since we captured this stone right here, we could ignore this and later use this peep to do something. We haven't committed to a course of action and then already given up what Aji it did create for us. But so this Hane, definite overplay, doesn't quite work. White comes down to Atari over here, yeah, that's pretty big. This works, pretty good balance with everything. Now, this cut is still, it's, I don't think either player really saw the Aji in the cut right here, but it was something that was definitely weighing on my mind. This is another really jealous move by white. I think white is not well served by doing this, and I think right here, if black just comes like this, I don't know if, well, now does this cut? Well, oh, it doesn't work. White can come back and capture here. That's unfortunate. Still, though, black could just come out. I don't know. It's pretty tricky, especially with this leftover Aji from this one. But, in the game, black blocks on the side, and it's just because you're not really getting much territory here. It seems like maybe the center is a little better. You can make sure you can pull out the stone, and white gets nothing here. I don't know. Another thing, though, is that, as long as black doesn't die somewhere, black is doing pretty well territorially, because black has all four corners, and white really only has one decent-sized area, and it's open at the bottom over here, so, not necessarily going to be the biggest territory the world has ever seen, in all likelihood. Well, this is still Sente. It'd be really big depending on who gets a move down here. Black could probably reduce the bottom by quite a bit. So there's some infighting. White ends up capturing the two stones. Not too big. Especially black keeps everything connected. And then, even gets the chance to defend over here. So we're really, again, white's just getting this little territory. Well, this is a good-sized territory down here, but, and then just a little bit here and a little bit here. Game still looks pretty good for black, I would say. This is kind of tricky. Yeah, I think at some point, it would be better to try and keep these connected. But even with white capturing this, still think it's decent for black. Oh, and then white really badly misplays this. This is a tricky Tesuji, even in the mid single-digit Q range. This gets misplayed quite a bit, because without any supporting stones nearby, it's kind of hard to find the move to refute this. And in the game, white descends here, which doesn't work at all. Black is just connected underneath here and is just going to cause havoc and mayhem. Like, at this point, it's probably best to just give way to here and let black destroy everything. There's not really any way around that at this point. I believe in this position that the proper defensive maneuver would probably be to play here, and then black would probably do something like this, or possibly do something like this, and then we would Atari, black would connect, and then we would connect like this. And then at some point, you know, black would probably push here, but that would bring the local situation to a close. And the reason that this weird attachment on the first line works in the first place is if black Ataris us like this, we counter Atari. And in this case, you know, if black tries to come out with this stone to connect back, then we Atari here, and this is not going to live back here. Basically, at this point, you know, we can do something like this, and black might try to live, but there's no real way to make this happen. So, you know, there's a lot of variations, but, you know, essentially, there's not a way for black to easily get 2 eyes. We can kill it. Black will not usually try to do that, but will instead just connect in Sente and reduce the territory. It's also sometimes possible to just do this. If black extends like this, come like this. If black cuts now, actually this might not, see, this is why this might not be working here. Can we do anything? Not really. Yeah, and if we do this, black can just keep coming. Eventually, yeah, so that's not working. But yeah, so in this case, I'm pretty sure it also might be, this might be working. Well, there could be a ko in here, though. Yeah, but these attachments are moves to look at when you don't have supporting stones directly above the monkey jump. This is definitely a candidate move that you should read and investigate to see if that works. And basically, with this massive reduction, and one other thing too, in addition to the monkey jump, if the board's open like this, it might be better to do the 1-point jump, because basically, assuming that it works, you can often do more damage. The 1-point jump. It could be close. It just kind of depends on the situation. Also, in this position, it should be noted too that, and see that, you know, I think white was thinking that this would be Sente, that black would have to come back and capture. But as it turns out, black can get liberties on the outside, and then if white comes down like this now, we have 3 liberties to 2 liberties. There's a little bit of trickiness with this, but at this point, you know, black can just jump up and get more liberties. So white's gonna die in the corner. Well, and black's actually connected. Never mind. I'm not paying that much attention. You know, so there's no way for this to work. So this was really good timing by black to get this jump in. And like I said, the 1-point jump might be better, but in the actual game, white misplays it, which allows black to just devastate this territory. And this game is pretty much over. There's just some endgame, but now black, it's really sad, white just connects here, threatening, you know, black would just, you know, play here, make 2 eyes and live. And in haste, you know, black plays a big endgame move, and white kills the center group, which tips the balance of favor back into white's favor by quite a bit. And here's one technique. When you're in a game, and I mean, you don't have to do this all the time, but if you're in a game and you're playing seriously, you know, and you're really trying to focus on the game, one thing is, what do you do when your opponent is thinking? What I do, particularly if I'm in a tournament, but even if I'm just playing like a fairly serious club game or something like that, is while my opponent is thinking, I will pick an area of the board, and I will just read and read and read and read and read and play out like various moves in my mind. And a lot of times, not all the time, but a lot of times, I'll find some Tesuji or really cool sequence that maybe I don't want to use right now, but I'm like, oh, I could do that in Sente whenever I wanted. Like, that's kind of cool. And then I've read out the variations, I've read out the defenses, so if I get into it and my opponent makes a mistake, then it's like bonus time. But or sometimes I see like, something my opponent can do to my position. Like, oh my goodness, like I didn't notice that if my opponent plays here, he can reduce this, by 12 points in Sente. I better, defend against that first opportunity I get. But in the end game, though, is I'll read the end game in as many situations as possible, and I'll just try to I'll try to mentally highlight, if my opponent plays here, I have to respond. So, I will read, if my opponent plays here, I obviously have to respond. That's part of my end game calculation, is I'm like counting the score and figuring out what I need to do, and if I need to play something desperate to stay in the game, and all that good stuff. Is so as soon as this stone hits the board, I'm already like, that's the move that means I have to play this. Like, I know that. Like, I'm just gonna do it right now. And if you can get into that mental habit of, like, mentally highlighting Sente-Gote relationships of moves that haven't been played, it keeps you from making this specific kind of mistake. And it's a good habit to get into. So, you practice that, you get a little bit stronger. And, yeah, so they actually play out the last few moves and go to counting, but, yeah, with Black losing that giant middle group, it's game over for Logic, unfortunately. But I thought this was a cool game. There were definitely some cool Tesujis. I think there was a little bit, like, kind of not noticing the Aji of this cut here. It did eventually get used, though, but I think it was more severe than both sides realized. And, yeah. But yeah, a really good game, though. I really feel like it's been a long time since I was 6Q, but I don't think I was this good when I was 6Q. So it feels like players are getting better. That's probably just, a quirk of my perception. But yeah, I thought this was a really solid game overall. Very few well, this was really bad. Don't do this armpit hit. This is almost universally a terrible move unless there's some spectacular reason that it, works in a certain position. But this is really limiting White's potential, and Black could even come on top here and just build a lot of thickness. Like, if White comes here like this, it's like White just did a 3-3-point invasion at the very beginning of the game, which wouldn't be good. Even if we just do something like this, like 10 points for this giant wall, even though you've got Sente to do something about it, like, that's just rough. It's like, this is really good for Black, and now Black will probably either approach here or split or approach here. One of the things on the bottom. Come here, probably split here or something. I don't know. But yeah, that armpit hit by White was really bad. But other than that, the whole opening was pretty solid. No glaring mistakes. Black did well. Hane headed 2 stones. And yeah, I thought that was kind of a cool game. But anyway, next week we'll be back to, I think I'll be doing a Shusaku game next week, and then and then probably do a couple pro games, Shusaku. But yeah, I did some offbeat stuff the last few games, but I'm just going to go back to the standard, and thank you for watching.